Welcome back, everyone, because what you are about to hear is the kind of Cowboys news that instantly sets the NFL world on fire and has fans refreshing their feeds nonstop. And today we are diving deep into a jaw-dropping air assault scenario that feels almost unreal, as the Dallas Cowboys reportedly land Marr to line up alongside CeeDee Lamb, forming what many are already calling one of the most lethal wide receiver duos in modern NFL history. A move so bold and aggressive that it completely reshapes the Cowboys' offense, shakes the balance of power in the NFC, and sends a very clear message to the rest of the league that Dallas is done playing it safe and is all in on chasing a Super Bowl right now. For years, Cowboys fans have been dreaming about an offense that strikes fear into defensive coordinators before the opening kickoff, and this move, if finalized, represents exactly that kind of ambition, because pairing Marr with CeeDee Lamb isn't just about adding another star, it's about creating constant mismatches at every level of the field, forcing defenses into impossible choices, and unlocking a version of the Cowboys' offense that we've only seen in flashes but never consistent. Why sustained across an entire season? Marr is not just another big-name receiver. He is a game-breaking force who changes how defenses line up, how safeties shade coverage, and how corners play with fear baked into every snap. And when you imagine him lining up on one side of the field with CeeDee Lamb on the other, it becomes clear just how devastating this could be. Because no defense in the NFL has two elite shutdown corners capable of handling both of them one-on-one for 4 quarters. And that reality alone is enough tilt games before they even start. What makes this scenario even more explosive is the contrast in styles between Chase and Lamb, because while both are elite, they win in different ways, with Chase bringing that raw, physical dominance, elite burst off the line, and uncanny ability to turn short passes into long touchdowns, while CeeDee Lamb thrives on precision, route running, body control, and the kind of spatial awareness that allows him to find soft spots in coverage and punish defenses repeatedly. And when you put those two skill sets together in the same offense, the result is chaos for opposing secondaries. From a schematic standpoint, this is where things get truly fascinating, because the Cowboys' offensive system suddenly becomes infinitely more flexible, allowing the coaching staff to dictate matchups rather than react to them. And with Chase and Lamb on the field together, defenses are forced to declare their intentions early, showing whether they plan to double one receiver, play zone, or gamble with single high safety looks that can be blown apart with one perfectly placed throw. Quarterback Dak Prescott would arguably be the biggest beneficiary of this move, because for the first time in his career, he would be operating an offense with 2 unquestioned, elite number 1 receivers on the field at the same time, which means faster reads, clearer throwing windows, and the luxury of knowing that even if the coverage is perfect, one of his receivers can still win at the catch point or create separation when it matters most. The ripple effect of this move extends far beyond the wide receiver room, because suddenly the Cowboys' running game benefits as well, with lighter boxes becoming more common as defenses hesitate to commit extra defenders to the line of scrimmage, knowing that doing so leaves them vulnerable to being burned deep by their Chase or Lamb. And that balance is exactly what championship offenses are built on in today's NFL. There is also the psychological aspect of this move, which cannot be overstated, because bringing in a player of Chase's stature sends a message not only to fans but to the locker room itself, signaling that the front office believes this roster is close, believes the window is open, and is willing to make bold decisions to maximize the prime years of its star players rather than settling for incremental improvements. Around the league, the reaction to this news has been a mix of shock, disbelief, and admiration, with analysts scrambling to break down how the Cowboys could possibly make the numbers work, what assets might be involved, and what this means for the competitive landscape, especially in the NFC where Dallas would instantly become one of the most feared defensive teams on paper. Cap space and contract structure are, of course, at the center of the conversation, because acquiring a player like Chase is not cheap in any sense of the word, and it would require careful maneuvering, creative structuring, and likely some difficult decisions elsewhere on the roster. But for a franchise that has often been criticized for playing things too cautiously, this would represent a dramatic shift toward a more aggressive win-now philosophy. From a football perspective, the investment makes sense when you consider how quickly elite offenses can elevate a team from playoff contender to legitimate Super Bowl threat, and with the Cowboys' defense already capable of creating turnovers and pressure, adding an offense that can score from anywhere on the field at any moment creates a complementary balance that is incredibly difficult to stop in January football. The idea of Chase and Lamb lining up together also opens the door for creative formations, motion concepts, and pre-snap disguises that stress defenses horizontally and vertically at the same time, forcing communication errors, coverage busts, and the kind of hesitation that elite quarterbacks exploit without mercy. And that chess match between the Cowboys' offense and opposing coordinators would be must-watch television every single week. For fans, this move taps directly into the excitement and optimism that define the Cowboys brand, reigniting the belief that this team can finally break through the postseason barriers that have haunted them for decades. And while skepticism is natural given the franchise's history, there is no denying that an offense featuring Dak Prescott, Jamar Chase, and CeeDee Lamb would be one of the most electrifying units the NFL has seen in years. Critics will naturally question the cost, the long-term implications, and whether allocating so much money to the wide receiver position is sustainable. But in a league increasingly driven by explosive passing plays and quick strike scoring, investing in elite playmakers is often the difference between teams that survive the regular season and teams that thrive when the stakes are highest. Another layer to this story is the pressure it places on opposing teams within the division. Because if the Cowboys truly assemble this kind of offensive firepower, rivals are forced to respond, either by upgrading their own rosters or by overhauling their defensive strategies. And that arms race dynamic only amplifies the significance of a move like this. From Jamar Chase's perspective, joining the Cowboys would represent a new chapter, a chance to showcase his talents on one of the biggest stages in professional sports, with constant national exposure and the opportunity to be part of an offense that could redefine passing production in the modern era. And that spotlight is something not every player embraces, but for a star of Chase's caliber, it could be the perfect fit. CeeDee Lamb's role would also evolve in fascinating ways, because rather than being the sole focal point of opposing coverage, he would gain the freedom to exploit matchups, move around the formation, and pick apart defenses that simply cannot afford to overcommit to stopping him, potentially unlocking the most efficient and explosive version of his game yet. As this story continues to develop, the speculation will only intensify, with fans debating hypothetical stat lines, analysts projecting record-breaking performances, and opponents quietly preparing for the possibility of facing a Cowboys offense that can score in bunches and erase deficits in a matter of minutes. And that sense of anticipation is exactly what keeps the NFL conversation buzzing year-round. Ultimately, whether this move becomes official or remains one of the boldest hypotheticals in recent memory, it perfectly captures the kind of ambition and imagination that fans crave. Because the idea of Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb flying down the field together, torching defenses, and redefining what's possible for the Cowboys offense is the kind of vision that turns ordinary seasons into unforgettable ones and keeps hope alive that this could finally be the year Dallas takes that long await. Next step.